Hey there, it's me. Once upon a time, in a little cottage in the woods, lived a poor shoemaker with his wife. They were very good people, but they had no money to buy leather or thread, and so they couldn't make shoes to sell. But one day, the shoemaker cut up some scraps of leather that were left over from previous customers and made a single pair of shoes. Then he put them out to dry on the grass, and when he returned the next morning, they were gone. In their place was a tiny note that read, "These are the finest shoes I have ever seen, but they're too small for me. Do you know who could wear them? The elves. If you leave your tools out tonight, they will make something for you in return." The shoemaker thought it over. What did he have to lose? So he left his tools out by the fire and went to bed. And in the morning, sure enough, his tools were gone. In their place was a tiny note that read, "We took your tools because we liked your shoes, but we couldn't use them because they were too big. So we made these for you instead." The shoemaker opened the box. Inside were 12 pairs of shoes, and since he wasn't expecting this, he didn't have any boxes to put them in. So he piled them up on the table. Then he took one pair and walked into town. He went into the first shop he saw and said, "How much can I sell these shoes for?" The merchant looked at them and said, "Those are elf shoes. People will pay dearly for those." Then he offered the shoemaker 40 gold coins per pair. So the shoemaker went home with 480 gold coins. He put on his finest clothes and walked into town. He went into the king's palace and said, "Your Majesty, I have something that belongs to the elves. Would you like to buy it?" The king looked at the shoes and said, "Why would an elf shoe fit me? Are you trying to insult me?" The shoemaker said, "No, Your Majesty, I don't mean to insult you, but it's the truth. Maybe they'll fit your daughter, Princess Iris." The king agreed to buy the shoes for the princess, and the shoemaker pocketed another 480 gold coins. He continued making his rounds through the shops and the homes of the nobles, selling off each pair of elf shoes for 480 gold coins. When he was finished, he was very rich. He could finally buy leather and thread and make shoes to sell. He and his wife were happy, and life was good. But every night they heard music and dancing coming from the forest, and it sounded like the elves were having so much fun. One night the shoemaker followed the sound to the edge of the woods and hid behind a tree. Sure enough, there was a clearing filled with the most beautiful elves he had ever seen. They were singing and dancing around a campfire, and they were having a great time. The shoemaker watched them for a while, and then one of the elves noticed him. "What are you doing here?" she asked. The shoemaker explained that he had taken her shoes, and he wanted to apologize. "I'm sorry," he said. "If I had known they were yours, I never would have taken them. I just needed to make some money, and my family and I are so grateful for what you made for us." The elves accepted his apology. "We understand why you took our shoes," one of the male elves said. "We do this for humans all the time. You just take something that belongs to us, and then we make something for you in return. But we want you to join us for a dance," another elf said. "Please come and spend the night with us." The shoemaker thanked her for the invitation, but he said, "No, thank you. I must get home to my wife." The elves understood. "Very well," said the female elf. "If you won't come and join us tonight, then how about tomorrow night? We'll come pick you up." The shoemaker knew it would be rude to refuse again, so he agreed. The next night, the elves arrived just as the sun was setting. "Come, we want to show you something," one of the elves said. He followed them into the forest and soon came to a clearing. In the center was a huge oak tree, and its branches were heavy with golden fruit. The shoemaker had never seen anything like it before. "This is the heart of our forest," one of the elves said, "and we only let special people come here. Will you climb the tree with us?" The shoemaker hesitated. Something told him he shouldn't go inside, but he really wanted to see what was up there. So he nodded, and the elves led him to the trunk. They disappeared up the tree so quickly that the shoemaker could hardly keep up. And when he reached the top, he found himself in a magnificent hall. There were tables laden with food and drink, couches made of flowers and soft moss, and chandeliers made of twigs and shining dewdrops. It was the most beautiful place he had ever seen. Then the elves invited him to sit down and eat, and the shoemaker feasted until he could eat no more. After a while, the elves began to sing and dance, and they invited the shoemaker to join them. He danced with the elves until he was dizzy, and then they showed him rooms filled with toys and jewels and treasures of all kinds. "You can take anything you want," one of them said. "It's all yours." The shoemaker looked around and saw a beautiful gown hanging on a nearby wall. "May I have that?" he asked. "Of course," said the elf. Then the shoemaker noticed a large chest in the corner of the room. It was locked, but the elf quickly unlocked it. Inside was a crown that sparkled like a star. "Oh my," said the shoemaker. "That is beautiful. May I try it on?" "Of course," said the elf. When the shoemaker put the crown on his head, he felt a jolt of power. He suddenly knew what it would be like to rule over the elves. And he realized that if he kept the crown, he could control the elves and use them to get even more treasure. In fact, he could become the most powerful man in the kingdom. He thought about how much money he would have if he owned all of the elves' treasure. He could give some to his wife and children. He could build them a big house and buy them fine clothes and shoes. They would never have to worry about money again. He was about to take the crown when he heard a voice that seemed to come from the walls themselves. "Who's in there?" It was the Elf King. The shoemaker panicked. He tried to take the crown off, but it wouldn't budge. It was stuck to his head. The Elf King burst through the door and shouted, "Who's wearing my crown?" The shoemaker jumped down from the table and fell to his knees. "Your Majesty," he said, "I'm so sorry. I didn't know the crown was yours. I just wanted to help my family. Please forgive me." The Elf King looked at him for a moment. Then he laughed. "Don't worry, shoemaker. I knew you meant well. And anyway, it seems the crown has chosen you." The shoemaker was confused. "What do you mean? You are now the king of the elves," the Elf King said. The shoemaker protested, "But I don't want to be king. I just want to go home." The Elf King placed a hand on his shoulder. "You have my permission to take anything you want from my treasury," he said, "and you may keep the crown if you choose." The shoemaker knew it would be wrong to steal from the elves, but he also knew he couldn't give back the crown. So he chose a handful of jewels instead. Then he said goodbye to the elves and hurried home. The next morning, he took the jewels to a jeweler and sold them for a lot of money. He bought new tools and leather and thread, and he and his wife spent the rest of their days making shoes and helping others. And though they never forgot the elves, they never went back to the magical oak tree. The end. Hey, thanks for watching. Hey, like the video if you liked it and disliked it if you disliked it. Check out my other videos and comment below with video suggestions. I'll see you next time.